Hello? Hello? This is a really bad line. John Aaron Garza, DCEU superfan and extraordinaire. I loved your article, my friend. But I haven't seen you around for a while. You're in hiding. You're wondering if some of the Snyder fans know where you are yet. I don't think so. Can I bring you some food? No! Is this thing on? Welcome back to Big Mouth and fancy seeing you here in June. I'm very welcome, my friends, and especially my enemies. Come in and sit down because this is the video where it has no clickbait title. This is about taking a step back and remembering why we love the DCEU, why we're fighting to release the Snyder Cut. Two reasons: Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. Anyone who has the balls to make these two films in this genre have got my respect. Now, Man of Steel was ballsy, but it was still it had elements of mainstream. I think the big moment for Man of Steel for me was the breaking of Zod's neck. That was brave. You had to have balls to do it. We know that Christopher Nolan and David S. Goyer wrote that film together. And even Chris Nolan, who's a very brave filmmaker, said that, I'm not sure, David, if this is the right thing to do. And he explained to him, and then Chris was kind of talked into it. What do I think? Listen, I absolutely believe that Superman shouldn't kill. He shouldn't. Now, I wasn't triggered by that moment. I think it's a fucking beautiful, compelling moment because it puts Superman in a position where he has no choice but to kill. Superman's always going to choose the human race. He's always lived on Earth. You know, he's lived on Earth since he was a baby. He loves humanity. And that's the moment he actually becomes Superman because really, he's got a choice to make. The Kryptonian who's about to kill the humans or the humans who are about to get killed by his own people. There's no choice to make there. He has to kill him. But if we look, there's no way you can criticize Superman's decision within the story. You can't. You can kind of look at David S. Goyer and say, David, was there really any need to do this? I think that's the question you can ask him. And then you think to yourself, well, in terms of how the film was made, how it was they put Superman in the real world. And I know what some of you will say to me, Mick, that's not what we wanted. We want Superman in the fantasy metropolis. We want da-da-da-da-da. That's what we want, you know. And look, I grew up on Superman the movie. I loved that movie. I wouldn't be a Superman fan without that movie. But at the end of the day, I love Man of Steel and I love BVS because they're so raw, so gritty and so real. Now, we can have this debate forever, if you like, if superheroes should be gritty and realistic. I don't know. I don't think there should be a rule. I think sometimes it's okay if it's done properly. And for me, Man of Steel and Batman v Superman are done beyond properly. So Man of Steel is this. See, Man of Steel isn't just this ballsy, gritty, realistic superhero movie. It comes because of Superman Returns. Man of Steel has all that action because of Superman Returns. Man of Steel has a slightly older Lois Lane because of Superman Returns, because of the complaints from Superman Returns. Superman Returns was accused of being boring, not enough action. What does Man of Steel do? Give them more action. What do they say then? There's too much action. So you can't please people. So whatever you do, I love the action in Man of Steel. I love the fact that there's all this action in Man of Steel. I love the fast pace of this movie. I'm glad it doesn't really take its time. I'm glad, look, when I'm first watching it and I realise we're not going to kind of do things in order, like we're not going to see Clark as a young man in Smallville, but we're going to see these things in backflashes, I was kind of taken back and I was kind of, I'm not sure if I like this because big Smallville fan from the TV show. I love the way they did it in Superman the movie and it's a traditional thing, isn't it? It's kind of, I don't know. But once I saw the backflashes, I actually thought, this is a really different, cool way of doing it. You still see him in Smallville, but it's done in backflash kind of way. And what that does, it's more emotional because it's kind of like the Lost TV series. You kind of would have it focused on one character. That character would be going through this big emotional thing, and then the character would flash back to a similar kind of moment in their lives. And I think this is what was great about Man of Steel. So he's standing at the church, ready to talk, and then he flashes back. Things like that really work, really powerful. So this was really a really unique way to do a Superman movie. Superman's a massive character. Superman is the most well-known entity in the world. His insignia is actually more popular than, the cross, the Christian cross, and any insignia. So Superman, this, as Lois says to Clark in Batman v Superman, this means something. When she says that, I start tear-ducking. You know why? Because it does. It does mean something. Superman means so much to so many people, and all we get from these Marvel idiots is, oh, Superman's not relatable, Superman's too powerful, Superman's too boring. Not to us. Not to us. He's someone to look up to, someone to believe in. He is a good person, and so much more than that. And we can look up to him. We can aspire to him. Superman matters to so many of us because of that reason. But there's more to Superman than just that. And that's why we love him. But it's easy just to kind of garbage something that you don't love but other people love. Why don't you stick to Spider-Man and we'll stick to Superman, right? So Man of Steel is this action-packed, gritty, amazing film. I love some of the relationships in this film as well. Obviously, I like the Clark and Lois stuff. I think what I loved with what they did with Lois was they wanted to find a way for her to know Clark was an alien. He was Superman straight away. So what they do is they suck her into the adventure. And I like what they did. Now, there's a moment when Superman's about to go onto the ship because Zod wants him. And then Pharaoh goes, well, he wants the woman. And obviously the Colonel says, no, we just agreed on the alien. And actually, this is one of the relationships I love. And I'm kind of diverting here, but I love the kind of angst between Feora and the Colonel. Is it Colonel Hardy? I love that. And it's a small part of the movie, but it's so good. And it's even funny in places. And I think that Nolan and Goya did a great job with that. And it's something that people don't really talk about. But it really is great. So they suck Lois into the action. So she goes on the ship as well. Now, some people say, why does Zod want her? She's random. Well, she's not random because he can read, they use the apparatus to read people's minds like they did with cows. So that's why they want her, because she's just a way of getting information. But obviously, and then she meets kind of false ghost Jor-El, if you like, and the dynamic between Russell Crowe and Amy Adams, Jor-El and Lois Lane working together to save the day. Again, fucking brilliant stuff that hasn't been done before. I don't know if it's been done in the comics. So again, really, really good stuff. And this is, as I say, this is just a video, just to slip back, relax, and think about Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. And their moments I really cherish. And it's like the guy who actually was in Smallville as well, when they're kind of at the army base, and then he goes, they got Superman in tow. And then the guy goes, Superman? That's what they're calling the alien. I love that bit. I love that bit because you finally hear the word Superman, and I just like the way that guy's doing it. It's a little bit fun as well. So one of my favourite moments. I think the most powerful moment in the film is when Superman is going against the World Engine. The music, Zimmer's music is so powerful, it's so emotional. That's my Superman flying towards danger, trying to save the world. It's absolutely beautiful. I guess we never will know if they intermingled Christopher Reeve's face at that moment. Zack Snyder said no, which is a shame because I think it would have been a beautiful moment. A bit weird, but hey, it is a Zack Snyder movie. So, yeah, Man of Steel is one of my favourite films. It's just such a great way of doing Superman. It's different, but I don't think the character's that dark. I actually think he's still Superman. But this is Superman in training. This is not the ultimate Superman yet. This is Superman Begins, and I like that. So some people critical of how aggressive Superman was in some moments. But one of my favourite moments is, you think you can threaten my mother? And he starts punching Zod. That's brilliant. That is brilliant. I like that because this is a ballsy Clark Kent. This is a ballsy Kal. This is a ballsy Superman. And I like that. Again, it's a little bit different. You just amp up his personality. I think whoever writes the next Superman film needs to amp up the character's personality. And I think Goya and Nolan really did attempt to do that by adding these little niche things into Henry Cavill's Superman Clark Kent Kal character. I think that was important. So on to Batman v Superman. Batman v Superman, if you think that Man of Steel was gritty or dark, then you hadn't seen anything yet. I think what's interesting with kind of why some people love Man of Steel and some people hate Man of Steel, and the divisive nature of the film is it isn't the film you expected. It's as simple as that. That's why you hate it. I don't think you hate it because you think it's a bad film. I think you hate it because it wasn't what you wanted. Because none of us thought, none of us, right, in our wildest dreams or nightmares thought that a film starring two of the most famous, iconic heroes in fiction's history, right, would have a film like this. We thought Batman versus Superman, they're going to fight, they're going to make friends, they're going to fight Lex Luthor, they're going to fight Doomsday. That's it. That's the end of it. It's great. It's exciting. Popcorn's been chomped. Shrug your shoulders. Forget all about it. It wasn't that type of film. Now, it was advertised as being one of those films. It was marketed by Warner Brothers as who will win. And isn't it interesting? They actually were selling something that wasn't a reality because Zack Snyder and Chris Terrio made a very different film. It was a very gritty film. It was a very dark film. It was a very indie type film. It was a film with lots of dialogue. It was a film with high emotion. It wasn't a typical superhero movie. It wasn't. It was made differently. And I think if only the public knew it was that type of movie, the public would have embraced it a lot more. And you know, guys, I've said this so many times. The problem with Batman v Superman isn't the film, it's the marketing. It's the mainstream audience's expectation that this film is going to be, I don't know, mainstream, because that's what you told them it was going to be. And so when they go in and they see this film and the words Batman v Superman are really little, that kind of gave me a clue into what kind of film this was going to be. Because you would expect the words Batman v Superman to kind of hit your face on the screen, and it doesn't happen. So this is really a kind of small movie. But for me, it's a very special movie. And to lots of people, it's a special movie. Even though it wasn't what I expected, it wasn't what I thought I wanted. Once I watched it, I was emotionally drained. People say, I don't care that Superman died. Some people say that, don't they? I don't care, we didn't know him long enough. Really? Do you remember the days when people just used to make standalone films and you had to create the effect there and then? You couldn't make 20 film franchise back in the day. You made one film and it was effective. So in Seven, when Brad Pitt's wife's head is in the box, it has to be made effective at that moment because there's no other film coming about it. And this is the difference in mentality of audiences now. Oh, it's like the complaints about Game of Thrones. Oh, why did Daenerys turn evil? They didn't build it up. Did they have to? They're trying to shock you. That's the thing there, I would say. I have not polarising opinions about Game of Thrones, and they're not all kind of backing up what Dan and Dave did. But anyway, we're talking about the DCEU here. The point is that, you know, this film really does something that I think was gutsy and ballsy. And the balls of Zack Snyder to make this film the way it was amazing. And I think the problems were there already between Warner Brothers and Zack because they kind of cut down his film. And then when the film didn't do as well as they wanted it to be, or thought they kind of conned people into going, because they had sold this popcorn chomping kind of fighting flick between Batman and Superman, and that's not what the movie is, right? There's so much more to this film than Batman and Superman fighting. But that's not how they plugged it. So they didn't make the money from the mainstream audience they wanted because they lied to the mainstream audience. So they had to do an extended edition. The extended edition, I like the theatrical cut, but the extended edition is brilliant. Now, some people say, well, it explains a lot more. Look, I'm not a child. I don't need everything explaining to me. I kind of get it. The way as Snyder edits his movies, sometimes there's not big explanations there. I do like the extended cut. I do like the fact that people see that Superman couldn't see through the wheelchair because it's made of lead. I think that is important, but I don't think those things being cut out are Zack's fault. there's a time constraint here. He was under pressure to cut certain things off. And so, look, it's a messy situation, basically. But you've got this guy, Zack Snyder, in making this film, making the most divisive, unique, mainstream film of all time that would divide and polarize audiences for the rest of eternity. And you've got the director there, and you've got the studio, and no one's on the same page. And then you think, well, why is this director there? Why is this director making these films? Because another guy brought him in, who, of course, was Christopher Nolan. So Warner Bros. Wanted Christopher Nolan to run the franchise, but Christopher Nolan didn't want to run the franchise, and he wanted other people to run the franchise. And, of course, this is where it got messy. But forget that. The point being, Batman v Superman and Man of Steel are the most beautiful, unique, well-made films you will ever see. And if you leave your expectations at the front door and just take them for what they are, you will have a good time at the movies. Get them on 4K, sit down, darken your room, get the popcorn out, and sit there. And with an open mind, even if you've hated them, and just think about what you're watching. And think again about your opinions about these films. Because as far as I'm concerned, these films are amazing. These films are the most amazing films in the history of mainstream film because they took a chance. They took a risk and said to the audience, we know you're not stupid, so we're going to give you something more.